Thanks so much, Tim. Pleasure to be back. I'll launch straight into our executive summary. There it is. Genetic Signatures is not a new company. In fact, we're a 20-year-old company. We have origins within CSIRO. We have been listed for 6.5 years, in which time we've continued to develop and commercialize, as you said, our unique nucleic acid technology, which we call 3-base. And 3-base was developed as a way to simplify the detection of infectious diseases. So these are the microorganisms that make us sick. Some of them, as we know, have a very high mortality rate. So the 3-base platform allows us to design and develop, manufacture, sell, support kits to pathology labs. They're our customers, and they use these kits on patient samples. The tests that we make are molecular tests, PCR tests, which directly detect the genetic information. And this is what they're referring to as the gold standard of test with COVID testing. But importantly, our 3-base technology is less susceptible to mutations that happen every day, particularly in viruses. And we have therefore patented our 3-base method and the workflows, and expiry dates are now out to 2031 and even beyond. So while we have application in infectious diseases, it is a core technology and does have application to cancer screening and epigenetics, but we are focused on infectious diseases and have been selling those kits for the last 7 to 8 years. We've certainly seen year-on-year growth during that time, 4-year CAGR of about 93%, and sales revenue of the year that we just closed increasing 151% over the prior year. Importantly, we've quadrupled the number of Genetic Signatures branded instruments that we have in the field over the last 18 months. And we have customers using our tests every single day in Australia, Europe, and the US. It's a fairly straightforward sales model. We sell our kits to testing labs. They use the kits every day on patient material. They pay us on standard 30-day terms. So it's really quick time from sale to cash. And the lab itself is reimbursed through government subsidies. Once our customers establish a workflow, it's really more like a printer ink cartridge model. So we sell them our tests as consumables to use on their instruments. And we've worked very hard to make sure that all of our tests work exactly the same way. So our customers, existing customers, can easily integrate new tests as we bring them onto the market. And we already have multiple regulatory registrations in multiple jurisdictions. Multiple kits registered in Australia and in Europe. And in the US, we have an exemption which allows us to sell our SARS-CoV-2 test for the virus that causes COVID-19. And we're also on our way with our clinical trial for our first FDA product. So as we're now established in use every day in Australia, Europe, and the US, on the next slide, I can confidently say that 3-base is now a trusted and proven technology. The tests we produce are syndromic panels, and all that means is that we can test for a really broad number of infectious agents on the one patient samples. So, for example, somebody presents with a respiratory symptom, sore throat, runny nose. They may have influenza. It might be rhinovirus, could be RSV, could be a mild corona, or in fact could be COVID-19. And our tests are able to look for all of these and more in the one patient sample. So on the right-hand side of that slide, you can see the upper part of the kits that we sell, and on the bottom of the Genetic Signatures branded instruments that we sell. But because of the power of our technology, 3-base, we can detect every known variant of SARS-CoV-2. The next slide will show you how we are able to achieve that, and it is via that unique 3-base technology. So we do convert all of the C letters in DNA to a T letter, and that is the reason that 3-base is resistant to most genetic mutations, because it's that C letter that's the most unstable letter in DNA, and it does spontaneously convert to that C letter. So we know that that's happening every day, but those are invisible to our technology. So as a consequence, Genetic Signatures is able to detect every known variant of SARS-CoV-2. 99% of them are a perfect match. And that includes alpha, beta, gamma, delta strains that are becoming quite commonly talked about. So the next slide will really highlight the busy 12 months that we've had. The 12 months are really significant in terms of the record revenue that we have recorded, starting last September, where revenues were up 585% on that prior period. December also up 744%. We also announced back in December our first US-based routine customer for our SARS-CoV-2 detection kit, which was very significant for us as the US is a target market. We received CE-IVD registration for our sexually transmitted infection detection kit. And in April, we announced that Dr. Neil Gunn joined our board. And Dr. Gunn was previously the president of Roche Sequencing Solutions. And prior to that, he was the vice president of Roche Molecular. So more recently, given year end, we announced our annual revenue was up 151%. And we also announced at that time that our monthly revenue for July, the month just closed, was in excess of $4 million. We also announced we're developing new kits, which is for vaccine preventable infections, as well as for tick-borne infections like Lyme disease and dermatophytes, which are fungal infections of skin and nails. So the next slide graphs the annual and quarterly revenue that we've received over just the last 4 years. It's very easy to see graphically that 2.5-fold increase in annual revenue compared to the prior year, and that 4-year CAGR of 93%. But importantly, as we're focused on taking our technology globally, international revenue was 21% of our total revenue, and that really reflects the inroads that we've made into our offshore target markets. Certainly demand for our products remains strong, and that's the reason why we disclosed that we had already achieved 4 million plus revenue for the month of July. So the significance of that can be seen here in this graph, where that 4 million historically was our 5th biggest quarter, and that we were able to achieve almost that just in the month of July alone. So we're certainly very well positioned to leverage the gains that we've made over the last 12 months with the number of genetic signatures instruments increasing, quadrupling since the start of the pandemic. And it's these instruments that continue to generate us revenue. We have registered tests, so regulatory approval tests that we can add into a lab's testing regime at the appropriate time. So in terms of cash, we had a positive cash flow for 3.7 million in financial 21 compared to a net outflow of 9.5 million in financial year 20. And close the year with 30 million in cash, allowing us to continue executing our expansion plans with a great deal of confidence. So on the next slide, I'll take you through our strategy. We are certainly focused on the 3 regions of North America, Europe, and Australia. I'll take you through briefly each region. So the US, we are direct sales and support staff, and we have a distributor in Canada. We already have that US market entry that I spoke about with our COVID detection kit, but I'm also very excited about our preparation for our enteric protozoan FDA product, where we're aspiring to win up to 40% of market share in the next 3 to 5 years. We made good inroads into Europe over the last 12 months. It was often difficult circumstances, but we have direct sales and support teams in the UK and in Germany. And we've developed a good pipeline of opportunities there. We do have distributors in other key countries, and we have a number of sites that are using us just for COVID screening, but we have those other kits ready with approvals that we're free to market. So we've actually just finished an enteric trial, for example, in Europe. Australia being our home base is where we're direct with sales and support. We manufacture all of our products. We have good penetration in New South Wales and Victoria. Recently announced that we have a new customer a new lab up in Queensland. And that's really significant to me because Australia is regarded as the most competitive market in the world. It's lean, it's efficient, and very well respected market. So doing well here is certainly a very good point from which to take your technology globally. So on the next slide, I just wanted to show you the potential of that one product. This is a product that detects enteric protozoan infections. And we believe that this product will displace traditional tests for parasites because that's looking down a microscope. And very briefly, it's been estimated that there are about 5.5 million of these traditional tests performed in the US each year. We're aspiring to win up to 40% of that market. And while pricing is still to be set, you can see on that table in the bottom left there what sales might look like if we were to win between 20 and 40% of market share with sales between 20 and 40 US dollars. So that single product only could generate 22 to 88 million US dollars in revenue, annual revenue. And it's for that reason that we're obviously very excited to finish our trials and submit our FDA application. So even though that's just one product, the next slide shows you the product range that we have commercialized and already in development. Now, the important thing here is that it's the top two products, respiratory, fueled by the pandemic, gastrointestinal or enteric infections, which is our most mature product. So they are the majority of our revenue. For those reasons. But this slide is to show you we have 7 additional products, some with regulatory registrations and some coming through the development pathway. So when you remember that these tests work in exactly the same way with compatible instruments that are already in the field, I think you can see why we're very excited to complete development and commercialize those additional products. So I'll just finish up on the next slide by looking forward. I think it's quite clear now that we have multiple growth opportunities in front of us. We're certainly focused on 3 things. The first is continuing to secure those long-term customer contracts. These are high throughput, high value contracts. Secondly, we're focused on upselling to the new customers that we've gained over the last 18 months, remembering our tests all work in the same way, and existing customers can easily add in the new products. Finally, we're focused on developing and commercializing the new products, in particular that product for the FDA, as well as advancing our other kits. But I'll just close on calling out our next generation 3-base specific instrument that we're developing. This will be a game changer to us. It is a sample to result instrument. The user simply have to load a patient specimen and the instrument does everything. The 3-base conversion, purification, PCR, and reports the results. So this, as I said, will be a game changer. It will certainly give us access to new market segments. So I'll pause there. Tim, the next slide will give you contact details if anyone wants to reach out for additional information, but I'm happy to take questions as time allows.
Right, thanks, John. We've got a few questions. You had sales numbers there. I think you announced 4 million in July, but annual sales of 28 million. Can you give us a little bit of colour? Is that how the road looks forward in terms of revenue?
Look, I guess everybody's looking at what our new normal will be, and it's quite clear from that graph that you can see as we release new products, as we win new customers, you can see that revenue jumping and being maintained because these new customers are generally on contracts. I was pretty clear that the majority of our revenue is from respiratory, it is from enterics, and that's what's in a lot of that. The new products as they come through will give us more products to sell. But we do anticipate that as COVID testing comes down and shifts to a more broader screen, that we are very well positioned for the new customers that we've gained to now offer them the additional tests, which will cover off many more additional targets than what they're currently screening.
There's a good question here. Interested to hear how genetic signatures will compete again on the many fronts where fast testing is coming into play. It's certainly something we're hearing a lot more about.
Look, I'm not sure what the question, if they mean fast screening is in antigen testing. Certainly for a molecular PCR test, the new instrument, we're targeting to do hundreds of patient samples within 3 hours or less, and that's hundreds of samples. So if we're referring to the antigen-based tests, which are quite quick, 15 minutes, they're generally going to be single test only. Do you have COVID, yes or no? We know that the sensitivity isn't the same as PCR tests, the type of test that Genetic Signatures manufactures, but importantly, it's only looking for that one target. And the market is shifting, to test for many other infectious diseases that they've been overlooked during the pandemic. So I'm certainly looking forward to the time where we go back to asymptomatic patients get screened for more than 10, more than 15 targets, including COVID-19 in a 3-hour window. Certainly doing hundreds of patients at the same time.
And can you give us a little bit more detail about your current US customers and kind of your plans for the US?
Yeah, look, Tim, we were pleased that the pandemic gave us opened some doors for us in the US, where we are now selling that SARS-CoV-2 product into the US that's in use every day with our customer labs. But the reason I dwelled on that enteric protozoan is, FDA clearance is the game that is the end game for us. That will be only one product, enteric protozoan, and you saw the type of revenue that we hope to achieve with that. So the plan in the US is to keep putting new products through the FDA clearance process. Now, we haven't announced to the market what those products are yet for competitive reasons, but we will in due course.
And obviously, given the times, there's lots of questions around the COVID test kit. Can you give us a little bit of colour on that? Is that something the Australian government would support in terms of using it?
Oh, look, our COVID test kit's in use in Australia every day. It's hard to tell you what our percentage market share is for various reasons, because they tend to pull patient samples into the one test, but I'm confident that we're at least 10% of the market in Australia. I suspect it's higher, but that's at least 10% of market share